Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 3-day Division Online Seminar Workshop in developing and validating localized SLMs and blended LDMs for Araling Panlipunan and Humanities and Social Sciences writers that will run starting today up to September 10, 2020. Before I begin with my discussion in this session, I would like to extend my warmest greetings to our school's division superintendent, Ma'am Loida and Nedea, to our assistant schools division superintendents, especially to Ma'am Susan Escoriano, the ASDS for secondary, to the education program supervisors, especially to Ma'am Mariben Berha, to all the PSDSs, to all the principals, to all the participants both from elementary and secondary, once again, good morning. Today, I am tasked to give you the discussion about the copyright, fair use, and third-party issues. So this is John Paul T. Dacillo, a senior high school teacher 1 from Felipe P. Panton High School, Bula District. So the objectives of our session, at the end of the session, the participants will be able to understand the concepts of copyright and select resources that are free from copyright issues. Now, let's proceed to the copyright. Copyright is like patents, also protect the creative work of an owner. But copyright pertains to intellectual property. In simple words, copyright protects original works of ownership. It gives an exclusive right to do or authorize others to do certain acts concerning literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works, cinematography, and sound recordings. That those things are creative works of an owner that may be copyrighted. So this is the basis of the institution of the copyright in the Philippines. So it is stated in the 1987 Constitution, Article number 14, Section number 13, that state shall protect and secure the exclusive rights of scientists, inventors, artists, and other gifted citizens to their intellectual property and creations, particularly when it is beneficial to the people, for such period as may be provided by the law. As mandated by the Philippine Constitution, Republic Act No. 8293 of 1997 was enacted to institutionalize the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. And also, this law was amended several times. The first amendment was on 2001 under the Republic Act No. 9150, where is talk about the layout, design, topographies of integrated circuits. The second was on 2008, where is the cheaper and quality medicines was created under Republic Act number 9502 of 2008, and the most recent amendments of this law, the Republic Act number 8293, was on 2013 under the Republic Act number 1037-2, the creation of the Bureau of Copyright under the leadership of the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Now, the question is, what is copyright law for? So according to Nathaniel Weinstock, copyright law serves the public purpose in two ways. First is all about the exclusive rights given to the authors to give them an incentive to create and disseminate their works. And the second one is the limits to the given rights to the author. So to further public access and to make it possible for today's creators to build upon the works of their predecessors. So the second public purpose is it talks about the limitation that may give by the author to the user's access. Now, let's talk about what is copyright. So we have two definitions here from World Intellectual Property Organization and from Nathaniel Neil Weinstock. So the first definition is copyright is the legal protection extended to the owner of the rights in an original work that he has created. So the second definition is copyright is a set of exclusive rights that the law grant to the authors of original expressions. So these two definition talks about the rights of the owner to their created works or works of their expression. So what is protected by copyright? Idea is not protected. Expression of ideas are protected. So idea not protected because no protection shall extend under this law to any idea even if they are expressed, explained, illustrated, or embodied in work. As it is under section 175 of the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. Expression of ideas protected because literary and artistic works hereinafter referred to as works are original intellectual creation in the literary and artistic domains under section number 172.1 of the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. Because idea is just an idea. So if there is no tangible expression of the idea, it may not be protected, it may not be registered to the Intellectual Property Office. If it has a tangible expression of ideas, so the, the work must be protected and you can register it to the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. So we have here protected works or expressions under section number 172.1. So works that are literary or artistic. Original, by originality is meant that the material was not copied and evidences at least minimal creativity that it was independently created by the author and that it possesses at least the same minimal degree of creativity means the expression, not the idea, needs to be original. So categories of original works. So we have 15 categories of original works under the section number 172.1. So we have 15. So those highlighted categories are meant to use for educational purposes. So we have the book, pamphlets, articles, and other writings. So those writings must be an original work or classified as original works. Illustrations, maps, plans, sketches, charts, and three-dimensional works relative to geography, topography, architecture or science, drawings or plastic works of a scientific or technical character, different audiovisuals, and other literary, scholarly, scientific, and artistic works are maybe categorized as original works. So we already done with the original works. So we have here the derivative works. So from the word derive, so we are making new thing from pre-existing thing. So we have here the dramatization, translations, adaptations, abridgments, arrangements, and other alteration of literary or artistic works. So an example of dramatization is you will dramatize into a play a certain literary works. Translation, an example of this is um, a literary works from or originally written in Spanish, and you will translate it into Filipino in order for the Filipinos to understand what is that literary piece is all about. Adaptations. So, for example, is a Korean novela that is adapted by the Filipino into a movie, and other alterations of literary or artistic works. So we have here also the collection of literary, scholarly, or artistic works and compilation of data and other materials which are original by reason or selection or coordination or arrangement of their contents. So we have the following works that is not protected by copyright. So we have idea, procedure, system, method, or operation, concept, principle, discovery, or mere data as such is not protected by copyright. Use of the day and other miscellaneous facts having the character of mere items of press information is not protected by copyright. Original text of legislative, administrative, or legal nature, as well as any official translation thereof, is not protected by copyright because this letter C is under a public domain. And letter D, works of the government of the Philippines are not protected by copyright because the same with the letter C, it is falls under the public domain. So when does copyright protection begin? Works are protected by the sole fact of their creation, irrespective of their mode or form of expression, as well as of their content, quality, and purpose. So in short, that copyright protection begins when the moment of work is fixed in a tangible form. So who owns the copyright? As a general rule, the copyright in a work is essentially owned by the work's creator. So, but this isn't always the case. So, copyrights are generally owned by the people who create the works of expression with some important exemptions. So, I will give one. If a work is created by an employee in the course of his or her employment, then the employer owns the copyright. So it's just a very good important exemptions of ownership of the copyright. So in copyright protection, we have two rights given to the author or the creator of the works. So we have economic rights and moral rights. So we will know more about these two in the succeeding slides. So we have here the economic rights. Economic rights consist of the exclusive right to carry out, authorize, or prevent the following acts. So it includes the reproduction of the work or substantial portion of the work, dramatization and other transformation of the work, the first public distribution of the original work, and each copy of the work by sale or other forms of transfer of ownership, rental of the original or copy of an audiovisual or cinematographic work, a work embodied in sound recording, a computer program, a compilation of data, and other materials or musical work in graphic form, irrespective of the ownership of the original or the copy which is the subject of the rental, public display of the original work or a copy of the work, the public performance of the work, and other communication to the public of the work. So the economic rights allow the right owners to derive financial reward from the use of their works by other. With any kind of property, its owner may decide how it is to be used, and and others can use it lawfully only if they have the owner's permission, often through a license. The owner's use of the property must, however, respect the legally recognized rights and interests of the members of the society. So, the owner of the copyright protected work may decide how to use work and may prevent others from using it without permission. National laws usually grant copyright owners exclusive rights to allow third parties to use their works subject to legally recognized rights and interests of others. So we already done with the economic rights. So we have here the moral rights. So under moral rights, we have two rights that is given to the owner or the author of the work. So we have the right of attribution and right of integrity. So when we say right of attribution, the authorship of the work must be attributed. So the sources of our modules must be cited in the in-text citation or in the bibliography or in the references. So right of integrity, it talks about to make any alterations, to object to any distortion, and to restrain the use of his name. So it talks about the right of the owner to to refuse the request of the other person to make an alteration to any distortion of his work or to restrain from the use of his name with respect to any work that not his own creation. So moral rights allows the author to create and creators to take certain actions to preserve and protect their link with their work. Now, what is the term of copyright? The term of copyright protection generally under economic rights, the term of copyright protection is lifetime of the author plus 50 years from the death of the author. If in case it is a joint creation, the 50 years is counted from the last surviving author. Under moral rights, the copyright protection is perpetuity, so the copyright is indefinite even the author is already dead. So we already done with the first part of the concept of the copyright. So let's proceed to the fair use principle. Now we have here the general fair use principle. The fair use of a copyrighted work for criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, including limited number of copies for classroom use, scholarship, research, and similar purposes is not an infringement of copyright. Fair use is a copyright principle based on the belief that people or the public is entitled to freely use portions of copyrighted materials for the purposes of commentary and criticism. For example, if you wish to criticize a novelist, you should have the freedom to quote a portion of the novelist's works without asking permission. Remember that without the fair use doctrine, all copying of any amount for any purpose would be a violation of copyright. It is not the only exception to the exclusive right of copyright, but it is the most significant. And it is the critical important in the work of teaching and learning and creating new knowledge. To determine whether a specific use under one of these categories is fair, the following are required to consider. The fair use factors. 1. The purpose and character of the use, including whether such is for a commercial nature or for a non-profit educational purposes. Second, the nature of the copyrighted work. Third, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. And number 4 is the effect of the use upon potential market for a value for or value of the copyrighted work. Here are some of the statutory fair use. So those are the statutory fair use. Balancing the interest of intellectual property owners with those who use it, the general public, is a key function of healthy intellectual property system. Copyright operates on this principle while giving its creators, may they be musicians, artists, or authors, seemingly sweeping ownership on their works. The public interest is weighed too. This is why, in the Intellectual Property Code and in relevant international treaties, there are limitations to copyright. So it is the fair use. Now, we have here the copyright and broadcasting. Broadcasting means the transmission by wireless means for the public reception of sounds or images or of representatives thereof. Such transmission by satellite is also a broadcasting, where the means for decrypting are provided to the public by the broadcasting organization or with its consent. Broadcasting organization shall include a natural person or a juridical entity duly authorized to engage in broadcasting. Communication to the public or communicate to the public means any communication to the public, including broadcasting, rebroadcasting, retransmitting by cable, broadcasting and retransmitting by satellite, and includes the making of a work available to the public by wire or wireless means in such a way that members of the public may access this work from a place and a time individually chosen by. So like the other works, broadcasting also has a copyright limitations with reference to broadcasting. So it is talks about the fair use and broadcasting. The inclusion of a work in a publication broadcast or other communication to the public, sound recording or film, if such inclusion is made by way of illustration for teaching purposes and is compatible with fair use, provided that the source and of the name of the author, if appearing in the work, are named. And the recording made in schools, universities, or educational institution of a work included in the broadcast for the use of such school, universities, or educational institutions, provided that such recording must be deleted within a reasonable period after they were first broadcast, provided further that such recording may not be made from audiovisual works which are part of the general cinema repertoire of feature films except for brief excerpts of the work. So we have here the scope of right of broadcasting organization. Number one is the rebroadcasting of their broadcast. Second, the recording in any manner, including the making of films or the use of videotape of their broadcast for the purpose of communication to the public of television, broadcast of the same, and the third one is the use of such records for fresh transmission or for fresh recording. Now, the last part of our discussion is all about the third-party issues. So we have two common third-party issues, the copyright infringement and the plagiarism. So we have here the copyright infringement. Copyright infringement, colloquially referred to as a piracy, if it is the use of works protected by copyright law without permission for a usage where such permission is required. Also, it pertains to the violation of someone's intellectual property. It is another term for piracy or the theft of someone's original creation, especially if the one who stole recaps the benefits and not the creator of the material. A typical example of copyright infringement is the use of music in your videos. If you have not obtained the permission to use a song as a background music for your home-based movies, business presentations, or your own creative work, then you could be liable for copyright infringement. Video sharing sites like YouTube and Facebook actively flag down or mute songs and music for copyright violation. So we have here the plagiarism. So according to Black's Law Dictionary, plagiarism is deliberate and knowing presentation of another person's original ideas or creative expression as one's own. Although plagiarism in some contexts is considered theft or stealing, the concept does not exist in legal sense, although the use of someone else's work in order to gain academic credit may meet some legal definitions of fraud. Plagiarism, specifically, is not mentioned in any current statute, either criminal or civil. Some cases may be treated as unfair competition or violation of the doctrine of moral rights. In short, people are asked to use the guideline. If you did not write it yourself, you must give a credit. S- So if you commit copyright infringement or any of those copyright issues, we have here the criminal penalties for that offenses. So the first offense, we have 1 to 3 years imprisonment with a fine of 50,000 to 150,000. Second offense, imprisonment of 3 years and 1 day to 6 years with fine of 150,000 to 500,000. Third offense and subsequent offenses, imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day to 9 years with a fine of 500,000 to 1.5 million. So we have here the copyright infringement and plagiarism. So not all copyright infringement is plagiarism and not all plagiarism is copyright infringement, because copyright infringement may occur when a copyrighted work is copied by another without the copyright owner's permission. The plagiarism is most likely presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own with or without their consent by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. So, if you borrow more than a trivial amount of another author's originality, and if the similarity is not the work of independent thought or is not fair, you are plagiarizing, rising, or violating copyright. Now, now we are already done with the plagiarism and copyright infringement. Now, we have the tips to avoid plagiarism. 1. Keep track of the sources you consult in your research or academic writing. So it pertains about the fine print of the resources. So the fine print is the privacy policy or the terms and condition. Paraphrase or quote from your sources and add your own ideas. Credit the original author in an in-text citation and reference list. And if you can subscribe a plagiarism checker, so use a plagiarism checker before you submit. Also, we have here the tips to avoid copyright infringement. First, always assume that the work is copyrighted. Second, do not copy, share, or alter without seeking permission. Third, credit the original author in an in-text citation and reference list. And fourth, review and retain licensing agreements. Always read the fine print, the terms and conditions, and the privacy policy. So, we are near to the end of the session. So, as academic writer, we are tasked to find resources that are free to use or free from copyright. So, we are advised to utilize the different OER's websites. It may be a public domain and Creative Commons. But don't lose in your mind that we need to always cite the author of our sources. Please bear in mind, if you did not write it yourself, you must give a credit. Now, we are in the last slide of my presentation, where is the references. So this presentation of mine is based on the presentations of Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines that was given and presented during the Copyright Handbook webinar last July 24 and 27, 2020, presented by Sir Jeremy Bayaras of Bureau of Copyright and Related Rights, Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, and by Attorney Emerson G. Coyo, Director 4 of Bureau of Copyright and Other Related Rights of the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Now, this is the end of my session. Thank you and God bless us all. Hope so that you learned something from my talk. Thank you very much and God bless. Bye-bye.